No face for the time being. Bit of a self-image issue at the moment. Oh, shut up. It's not that deep. I'm just awkward as hell on camera, and I want to write, damn it. I want to let my soul sing on the page. See? It's already better. So it's all okay. It's not that serious. I am, however, a bit worried I won't be able to write scripts as good as I used to. But worst comes to worst, I just pull an Andrew Jackson, give all 15,000 of you kegs, and move on with our lives. That's actually something that happened. Look that up. And of course, he finished his term. America! So you want to build a +1/+1 deck, or at least stumbled across this video trying to make the world's smallest porch. And if that joke went over your head, I'll aim a little lower next time. +1/+1 counter decks are high risk and high reward creature decks based around upping our creatures' power and toughness over the course of the game. Whether those creatures be tokens, early game creatures, more mid-range, or go tall is all up to you. If you like giant creatures, huge board states, and lots of damage swinging at your opponents, this strategy might be perfect for you. If you don't like keeping track of lots of counters with dice, adding up lots of combat math, and multiplication, pretty much if you flunked math, this won't be great. You're gonna need to like big numbers to play this strat. No shock here. No Hassan here, guys. None of that. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. Also, Fur, Drawl, ran in 10,000 decks. Alright, I'm pretty sure that covers everything. The +1/+1 counter deck. All about making your creatures huge permanently, using Magic's version of Juice, Sauce, the Roids, +1/+1 counters, a permanent buff to any creature that has these counters on. We will become freakishly huge, or we'll die trying. It's the Sam Sulek of strategies, really. Now, there's a couple ways to seduce this swine. You can always throw these 1/1 counters on highly evasive creatures like Invisible Stalker, Ginger Brew, Eye Collector, turning them into huge threats over the course of a game. This is pretty much the entire strategy of my Arna Kennerud Sky Captain deck, if you want to check it out, top right corner. Plus, that deck's a token deck, so combining 1/1 counters and token decks, that's just gonna work a lot of the time. You could also run a more Voltron 1/1 counter deck where you put all these counters on a commander like Legolas, Mowu, or Lily Bowen, and turn them into giant commander damage threats. Plus, there's always the creatures that just like having 1/1 counters placed on them, Herald of Secret Streams, Master Biomancer, Dusk Legion Duelist, so, you know, a 1/1 counter deck just full of these, also very viable. All of these have the same roots in making creatures really, really big and hitting opponents with a ton of damage. So the question becomes, how do we make big? We can utilize one-time use effects like Unbreakable Formation, Requisition Raid, or Duty Beyond Death that can provide board-wide 1/1 counters for each of our creatures, while cards like Drana Liberator of Malakir, Machias the Lunarch, and Cosmonaut Zenith do the same thing on a more permanent, recurring basis. You've also, of course, got bigger 1/1 counter buff cards for individual creatures like Fangs of Colonia, Thickest in the Thicket, and Astarian's Thirst, which can provide more counters to an individual creature of ours. And of course, there's more permanent and recurring methods of giving an individual creatures more counters, like Communal Brewing, Roaring Earth, and Prof's Eidetic Memory. Also, Prof's Eidetic Memory, busted, give that card a read. Any of these cards, if left unchecked, can quickly get out of hand. Remember, pretty much most ways of putting 1/1 counters on creatures are gonna be good in a 1/1 counter deck. Just find the ones you like. Keep in mind, throughout this video, down below, there are Scryfall search links for all the stuff we're gonna talk about, so you can go ahead and look through all those, find the ones you like, build your own deck, go nuts, dude. We're also gonna go more in depth with some card choices that I prefer later on in the video. After hearing all this, the question then becomes, what counters a deck like this? What should I be looking out for? Well, removal. Anything that can reset the counters that we have put on creatures, that's not good for Papa. Board wipes like Austere Command, Dam, Cyclonic Rift, yeah, they're gonna reset a whole board's worth of 1/1 counters. That's not gonna be good for us. And individual removal like Path to Exile, Unsummon, and Go for the Throat can do the same thing to a single creature on our side, so if you're going for more of a buff up one creature type vibe, not gonna slide. To combat against this in my own 1/1 counter deck, I run cards like Heroic Intervention, Defend the Rider, Akroma's Will, that can prevent these removal pieces from having such a crazy busted effect against your fat stack of counter. Also, if your 1/1 counter has access to blue, which my Arna Kennerud Sky Captain deck does, which is a big reason why I love it, run a ton of counter spells. Negate, Counterspell, Spell Pierce. You're not gonna be removing my counters, buddy. Not today. So here comes the fun part. What kind of commanders are we dealing with? 1/1 counter commanders come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. If you want some budget options for 1/1 commanders, Shalaya and Halar are literally the top 1/1 counter deck you can run right now, and they're $3, being a Naya 1/1 counter deck that turns your 1/1 counters into direct damage to opponents, which, yes, is just as gross as it sounds. The Wise Mothman is a 99-cent commander and is an absolute monster, turning any source of mill into 1/1 counters, making this a really cool graveyard 1/1 counter build with access to cards like Cemetery Tampering, Ruin Crab. I'm probably going to pick up a Wise Mothman if I'm being honest. I talk about this card a lot. If you're willing to throw down a bit more money, commanders like Animar are fantastic, being $14, turning creature spells into 1/1 counters and reducing your creature spells cost for each 1/1 counter. Yeah, it's... No, I don't blame you for barfing into your mouth and swallowing it. That's disgusting. Yeah, I think I'll just play my commander, drop a Lanalore Elves, a couple of Arbor Elf type effects, and then drop that Blightsteel Colossus for 5 mana king. It's gonna be great. There's also a Traxa for $24 if you want to be an absolute scumbag. Give out a Proliferate at the end of each of your turns. Yeah, just put another counter of any kind of counter that's on any permanent you control. Give them another one at the end of each of your turns. I'm not going to suggest anything here. The deck's just busted. Let's talk about some of the best and coolest cards you can run in a 1/1 counter deck. The first and foremost thing you're going to want to run is counter multipliers. These cards double the amount of 1/1 counters that we get. So cards like Doubling Season or Vorinclex, those are going to be upwards of $30, but there's plenty of mid-range and low-budget ways to emulate this. Now, if you want to spend the big boy $10 plus bucks, Doubling Season, Vorinclex, Innkeeper's Talent, those are all going to be the top dogs here. If you're looking for more of a mid-range budget, $2 to $10 alternative, Branching Evolution, Primal Vigor, the Earth Crystal, and the Loading Zone are all fantastic options for counter multiplication. And if you're on a low budget, honestly, Corpsejack Menace, hey, that's gonna be your guy. But don't fret, my low-budget friends. The next section will be your bread and butter. Outside of counter multiplication, counter addition is also very good. These cards will add an additional counter every time we place one or more counters on a creature. Good news here. None of these cards are more than $8, and tons of them are cents. For more of a mid-range budget, cards like Benevolent Hydra, Pure Imaginative Rascal, Ozolith the Shattered Spire, and Kami of Whispered Hopes, those are going to be your 4 MVPs in this category. Now, if you're on a budget, let's have some fun, which is weirdly enough exactly what the Steel Reserves used to whisper to me off the shelf. Now, on a budget, we got bombs. Lae'zel, Vlaakith Champion, Hardened Scales, Conclave Mentor, Zabaz, the Glimmer Wasp, Winding Constrictor, and Caradora, Heir of Alarcria. All absolute bangers, providing additional counters. Run all of them, but that's not it. Another great way to dish out 1/1 counters is Proliferation. Pick any number of permanents with counters on them and put an additional counter of that type on the permanent. Yeah, that's going to be good. Now, if you want to get all fancy with it and all high budget, cards like Sword of Truth and Justice, Yawgmoth, Rand Physician, Atraxa Praetor's Voice, and Filgrieve Vector are all incredible recurring forms of Proliferation. But if you're on more of a mid-range budget train, cards like Vraska, Betrayal's Sting, Contaminant Grafter, Ichormore Gauntlet, Norn's Choirmaster, Contagion Engine, Tekuthan, Staff of Domination. Can I stop now? There's a ton of these for a mid-range budget. And if you're on a strict budget, there's even more bangers. There's cards like Patrolling Peacemaker, Evolutionary Sage, Flux Channeler, Karn's Bastion, Surge Conductor, Inexonerable Tide, and plenty more. All come in at under $2 and provide some serious proliferation for us. Again, links to all of these subsection Scryfall searches down below. But I have to talk about my favorite type of card to run in these decks. They have to be cards that reward you for just putting the counters on them in the first place. For you high rollers out there, all will be 1 turns counters placed into damage to opponents. That's busted. That's my recommendation. Now, some more mid-range budget cards include Generous Pup, which turns him getting a 1/1 counter into all of our creatures getting a 1/1 counter. I actually didn't know about this card before this video. I'm picking one of these up for Arna immediately. Terra Symbiosis turns 1/1 counters into card draw, and Exemplar of Light turns 1/1 counters, well, wouldn't you guess it, into more card draw. Now, on a budget, as always, this is where it gets fun. Cards like Skirioak turn counters into 1/1 squirrels. Or how about Evolutionary Witness, which turns 1/1 counters into returning cards from your graveyard to your hand. That's busted. Or Dusk Legion Duelist, which again, turns 1/1 counters being placed on it into card draw. All great options. And finally, one of the last card types worth talking about are counter movers. Now, when Ozolith got printed, it introduced this new idea, the idea that when a counter deck's creatures die, the counters stick around and they get to be used more. And seeing that Ozolith is $45, it's easy to think that this type of card, or at least a micro version of this effect, would cost some money, but there are some seriously good effects for not that much, for not, $45. Resourceful Defense moves counters from permanents onto another permanent when that permanent leaves, making this card even better than Ozolith in my eyes. And it also has the ability to pay 4 and a white to move any number of counters from a creature onto a creature. Past the Ozolith and this effect, it's more of a individual counters type deal. You got cards like Goldberry, River's Daughter, Nesting Ground, and Leech Bonder, which can all move individual counters by activating their ability. All very useful. Now, are these all the banger 1/1 counter cards? No, we haven't even talked about Agatha's Soul Cauldron, the Great Henge, Walking Ballista, because 1, those are all incredibly expensive, and 2, part of the fun is finding those cards for yourself. So again, Scryfall search links down below if you need them. Past this, I'd like to show you a 1/1 counter deck reference, and then get out of your hair. For the sake of the video, I made a fully original 1/1 counter deck. My list is based around the top 1/1 counter commander, Shalai and Halar, which I felt was appropriate. So we're gonna hop over to that deck list on Moxfield. I'll show you how a 1/1 counter deck kind of performs, what it looks like in the early, mid, late game. So hopping over onto Moxfield, you can see I got the Shalai and Halar deck, also linked to this down below. It's got all the stuff we need. We got the cards that give all of our creatures with 1/1 counters a buff. This dishes out lifelink to anything with a 1/1, trample, flying, another lifelink. We got plenty of ways to dish out 1/1 counters. We got 5 different ways to add additional counters whenever we add counters. Plenty of card draw, ways to move counters, proliferate, ramp, removal, ways to duplicate the counters, individual buffs when we put counters on these creatures. So if you want to give any of this a look out, you can go ahead and check this out for any kind of inspiration, but let's get to the gameplay of it and give you a basic idea of how a 1/1 counter deck looks when you're playing. Now with the Incubation Druid, I can keep this because we're playtesting. I'm going to assume someone's running green, so Exotic Orchard's going to be a value. Let's get into it. Go ahead and drop our Fury Calm Snarl tapped and then pass. Play an Exotic Orchard. Tap 1 and a green to play Incubation Druid. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any type a land you control could produce. If Incubation Druid has a 1/1 counter on it, add 3 mana instead. We're going to play a Forest and go ahead and pay 4 for a Caradora. When she enters, you may search your library for a mount or vehicle card. We actually don't have either one, but whenever we put a 1/1 counter on a creature or vehicle we control, we put that many +1/+1/+1 counters on it, so we like. Passing back around to us, we will go ahead and draw a card, play a Canopy Vista tapped, go ahead and pay 4 for our Commander. A 3/3 Flying Vigilance, whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on a creature you control, Shalai and Halar deals that much damage to target opponent. So with that, we'll go ahead and pass back around to us. We will drop a Clifftop Retreat. We're going to go ahead and pay 5 to activate the Adapt 3 on our Incubation Druid, which means we put 3 1/1 counters on it. When we put those 3 1/1 counters on it, Shalai and Halar will trigger and deal 3 damage to target opponent. Caradora will trigger and put an additional 1/1 counter on Incubation Druid, and Shalai and Halar will deal an additional 1 damage to target opponent. Now that Incubation Druid has a counter on it, it will be able to tap for 3 mana. We will tap that 3 mana to play Pride Malkin, a 2 and a green 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on a creature. Wouldn't you know it, we're going to go ahead and stick it on our Commander, and since we have Kadora, Shalai will get an additional counter, which means she will do 2 damage to opponents. And she's also got Trample, thanks to Pride Malkin, so we'll go ahead and swing with a 5/5 Flying Vigilance Trample and pass back around to us. And at this point, we're looking good. We got a 4/6, a 4/2, a 5/5, a 2/1. These 2 have Trample. We're looking pretty good. That's it. This should help you answer the question, should I build a 1/1 counter deck? I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want to make more. Comment the strategy you want me to talk about next. Be sure to subscribe and check out those links below. Much love, boys. See you guys next time.
I said, and I listen, y'all spec. It hits that me, that's facts. I'm still coming for a play. When I hear something, then shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.